Each year, men's pro golf has four majors. They include the Masters, PGA, US Open, and Open Championship. Remember when Phil Mickelson did that awkward victory jump in the 2004 Masters? It's okay to make fun of Phil. We all know he's amazing. Welcome back to another episode of Polymer Club's Ask Dr. Paul. Today we're going to highlight the four common polymer material types, or polymer material majors. So when your boss talks about plastics, elastomers, TPEs, and thermoset plastics, what do you need to know? Let's take a look at the figure on the screen, which shows polymer materials. On the left side, there's thermoplastics. On the right side, there's thermosets. We're going to talk about rigid and flexible. So if we start on column one, a rigid thermoplastic, that is a plastic. And if we go to column three, a flexible thermoset, that is an elastomer. In past That's Working Knowledge videos, we've compared plastics and elastomers and talked about differences in properties, processing, TG, and even chemical composition. Let's talk about rigid polymers. On the left side, there's plastics. On the right side, in column four, there's thermoset plastics. So we know polyethylene is a plastic, and we also know you can cross-link it and make it a thermoset. That's what we call cross-linked polyethylene, something over in column four. We can do the same thing with PET, a plastic, and we can link the molecules together in polyesters and come up with a thermoset plastic. But the thing to remember is when you get to the rigid thermosets, they're longer cycle times. We've talked about 3 minutes versus 20 seconds for plastic. So that's going to cost you. There's going to be more expense related to the thermoset plastic. So you got to get something out of it, right? And the two main things that usually happen are improvements in chemicals and temperature. So yes, cross-linked polyethylene typically performs better against chemicals and temperature than polyethylene does. At the end of the day, plastics and thermoset plastics are both rigid at room temperature, and they compete with each other. Let's talk about flexible polymers. There's elastomers in column three, and thermoplastic elastomers, or TPEs, in column two. These two are both flexible at room temperature and compete with each other. We know about elastomers. They're longer cycle times, maybe 3 minutes to make parts. Let's explain TPEs. They have a plastic component to them, which allows them to cycle like plastics. So all of a sudden you get into these 20-second cycles. So when you start comparing the costs, we know that the shorter cycle times of TPEs make them very favorable when you're comparing the two. However, it does come with some challenges. Since there is a plastic component, things that are very elastic can suffer. For example, compression set resistance. So if you were making a tire or you were making a gasket to seal parts, you would struggle a little bit with TPEs because the compression set resistance is down. When I'm thinking about the big four polymer materials, it's nice to use a fruit analogy to keep them straight. Plastics, I think of an apple. Elastomers, which are totally different and as a general statement don't compete, I think of an orange. But elastomers and TPEs do compete. So when I think elastomers orange, I think of TPEs as kind of like a tangerine. And then remember that plastics and thermoset plastics compete with each other. So I think apples. And then with thermoset plastics, I think of a high-end apple. Knowing the big four polymer material types, plastics, elastomers, TPEs, and thermoset plastics, that's working knowledge. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and even share if you appreciate the content. I'm Paul Nash for Polymer Club's Ask Dr. Paul. Thanks for watching.